everyone, it's Suffer and I'm back with another video. So you all know these Chameleon markers, I assume. If you don't, they are markers that allow you to paint gradients. The way that this works is that the marker has a mixing chamber with just clear ink in it. So when you touch the tip of the marker to the mixing chamber pen thing, and you hold it like this vertically, the clear ink will flow into the tip of the marker and it will dilute the color, so it will draw in a gradient. So as you can see here, if you start to draw with the marker, there is no color coming out, but then once you got all of the clear ink out of the tip, it will start to actually color down the color. Now this is all very fun, but I find that the Chameleon markers are super expensive and they're super big, and I don't like the way that they've made the tips on them, and I don't think that they color very well. So I was thinking, can you find a way to do this cheaper and better? And the answer is yes, you can. So that is what I'm going to show you today. So the cool thing about this is that you can use basically any kind of marker you want to. You can use Copics or other alcohol-based markers, or you can even use water-based markers. So I think that's really cool, because then you're not limited to super expensive alcohol-based markers. So how do you do this, you're wondering, and let me answer your question. Because the way you do this is just basically the same technique as with the Chameleon markers. You take your markers and you touch the tips, and then you turn them vertical so the ink can run from one marker down to another marker. So here you can see how the ink has transferred from the orange marker to the yellow marker. And now if you draw with the marker, you can see that the same thing as what happened before happens here. The thing is, you kind of have to play around with how long you touch the tips. As you can see in this first swatch, it didn't really get a lot of orange in there, and the gradient isn't really that good. But in the second swatch there's a bit more orange, but still the gradient isn't super good. And I think that this is because of the Copic marker. But let's give it the benefit of the doubt. So now I'm gonna try an orange and a purple one, because orange and purple are furthest away from each other on the color wheel. So I wanted to see if complementary contrasts could be gradiented in this way. And surprisingly, it actually worked better with the purple and the orange than the orange and yellow did. Maybe it was because I touched the tips together for longer, or maybe it was because I was holding the marker more vertically, because that's very important when you do this, to hold the marker vertically, or else little weird streaks of color will come down on the paper. So you get the best results holding it vertically. And here I'm just trying to blend it out a bit with the orange marker. If you're worried about this ruining or staining your markers, don't be. You just have to kind of scribble on a piece of paper with both markers once you use them. I found that the one you're using to transfer from doesn't really get any color, but sometimes the one you've transferred onto can have some excess color, so just scribble it off. I also tried this out with a bullet tip marker, and I found that this actually worked the best, which was kind of sad because I love my Copics and I love using them, and I don't really like using bullet tip markers because they're kind of not very precise, but it did work really good for this. And I think that the secret behind this is that the softer the tip is, the better it works. And I mean, Copic tips are pretty soft, but for some reason it doesn't really work that well with Copics. But for normal markers with normal tips, the softer the tip is, the better this works. So I wanted to try this with more than two colors, so I took an orange, a yellow, and a green marker. And I used the green as the base, and then I took the yellow, because that's the next color in the rainbow. And then on top of that, I took the orange and transferred the color. And this actually works, and it makes the gradients more smooth if the colors aren't next to each other in the color wheel. The trick to getting this one right is holding the second color for a really long time and then holding the third color for not as long. But you really have to hold the colors for super long for this to work. Okay, so now let's try our new techniques in actual art. So I drew a couple of girls with some hair and a girl with a background that I'm intending to make into a sunset. These are the things that I have used the gradient trick on before in the past, and I found that it's really great for that because you can make kind of ombre looking hair and you can make really cool sunsets with this. But I'm sure that some of you can come up with even cooler things to use this trick on. So for the first one here, the girl with the kind of straight hair, I used the soft bullet tip marker, and I found that this one worked out the best. For the second one, I used water-based markers, and I just used my Staedtler Tri Plus pens because that was just what I had. The ones that I used in the intro I realized were kind of running out of ink, so I switched to these ones. And I tried to do a free color gradient for this one, so I used yellow, orange, and red. For the last one here, the girl with the side shave, I used my Copic markers. And I don't think I gave them nearly enough time to blend with each other because there wasn't really a lot of dark green in there. It ran out pretty quickly, so that's something to keep in mind. And also, as I said before, always remember to hold the marker vertically. Also, if you haven't noticed yet, the way to go about this is to lay on the color in lines starting from the bottom or the top, depending on which color you want to be where, and then just moving up. And if you have some object in the middle of where you're laying down the color, remember to go all the way from one side to the other, and then of course skipping the object in the middle. And now for this last one with the sunset, I kind of messed up because I didn't have a lot of patience, so I didn't let the colors seep in for nearly long enough. So the very top part is red and then the rest is just yellow. So I just kind of messily colored the rest in because I didn't want to spend a lot of time on it. So here we have some examples of how I've used gradients for the hair and for shirts, and it just adds a nice dimension. And here is one of my Inktober pieces that I did, which is a Gravity Falls one, where you can see how I used it for the sky here. It's very subtle, but it's there. So that's it for this time. I hope that you found the tutorial helpful and that you liked the video. And I'll see you later.